It's weird, there's no music. Well, hello everyone. It's Winnie Sun here, and thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to have you with us. In fact, today is our first workshop on the financial first aid kit. Many of you have been asking for, and this is the one that we're going to do, and we're going to get you all underway. As a start, first off, those of you who do know me, I am co-founder of Sun Group Wealth Partners. This is being shared on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, as well as Twitter. So thank you so much for joining us. Do you know this is about you and for you? So feel free to jump in, give us questions, submit comments, feedback. We would love to hear from you. But let's start off the party right. Let me introduce you to my longtime business partner, co-founder, and director of investments, Brandon Chang.
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know us, we are a wealth management firm based in Orange County, California. And we're a team of financial professionals with collective 85 years of experience. And for the past 2 decades, we work closely with CEOs, C-level executives, small business owners, individuals, and novice investors to build their financial plan.
Well, recently there was a survey that came out. I know Brandon and I both took a look at it. Over 50% of those surveyed indicated that they were very anxious about their financial affairs right now. Really high levels of financial anxiety during this pandemic. In fact, a third of those surveyed noted that they had real impact in a financial sense during this time. In fact, this is not just because of the pandemic. We saw in a previous survey back in 2018 even that this was actually the largest concern of American household, money. Money was the big issue. So what do we do about getting everybody to that next level so they're feeling more confident, Brandon?
Well, one answer is preparation and communication. So that's where this financial first aid kit comes along.
Yes, recently you may have seen I contributed to an article that Michelle Fox at CNBC put together. The importance of having a financial first aid kit. You'll see the article right here if you haven't seen it already. But this was really something that gave me pause. It gave me a chance to really think about why this was important and why really each and every family should have this. Some of you may know, actually not that long ago, my dad actually had to go to the hospital. He had an accident while walking at the park with my mom, and they were doing laps, and all of a sudden he fell. It was completely unexpected. He ended up having going to the emergency room and having multiple, he had a lot of medical concerns, a lot of treatments. And one of the first things that the hospital did was they reached out and said, we definitely need his living trust and we need his healthcare directive. And fortunately, having a daughter who's a financial advisor, I had all those documents. But so many times, so many of us get in a situation where we don't have this prepared. We're not sure. So we're already at a very high level of stress. And then we're trying to scramble and finding these important things that we need at any given time. So that is really our motivation, our proactive approach to putting our documents together. And so that way you have what you need just in case of an emergency.
Well, the good news is you don't have to write any of this down because every information is on our website, financialfirstaidkits.com. So you can visit the website at your leisure. And to get things started, what we want you to do is reference when you just recently paid your taxes, gather all those documents, and we'll start to build from there. The point is that we want to get to a place where all the documents are in one place and you can access it in a moment's notice.
Thank you, Brandon. So this is so important. Where do you start? So we wanted to give you the tools on where to start. So we're going to go through a list of a lot of documents that you'll want to get and gather. And like Brandon had mentioned, if you go to that website, all the information is there. So you don't have to worry if you're like, I can't write all this down, because it is a lot of documents. It's a lot of putting things together, all those things sometimes you don't think about. And what Brandon mentioned is right. First things first, what did you use when you filed your taxes? Then the next things that I would recommend you include is number one, your budget worksheet. Now, those of you who watch me know that I talk about this quite often. I'm very passionate. I think everybody should have a sense of where you're spending. But this is also a very good tool because of in case of an emergency, you want your family members or people important to your life to both gather this data really quickly if they need it. So your budget worksheet should be in there. Now, if you don't have one, don't despair. Not a problem at all. You can actually go to mybudgetworksheet.com and you can actually download your free budget worksheet, and you can actually put one together really, really quickly. So no worries there. You also want to include a copy of your credit report, okay? You'll also want to include your Social Security statement. In fact, you might even want to keep a copy of your Social Security card in there, your debit and credit card statements as well, and your bank account statements. What else, Brandon?
So some other things that you want to include are your brokerage account statements and your retirement plan statements. So IRA, Roth IRA, your 401k, 403b, pension plans. Next, what you want to include are your insurance documents. So home, health, automotive. Also, don't forget about your annuities as well. Another thing is contact information of your trusted advisors and agents. So people like your financial advisors, attorneys, CPAs, insurance agents, and so forth. And lastly, other important documents are your mortgage statements, your car statements, credit card statements, and importantly, your travel documents like your passport.
Yeah, Brad, I'm so glad you brought up the travel documents like your passport, your TSA documents, and why this is important. Actually, a few years ago, when Brandon and I, we had a client actually that kept their passport copies and travel documents, and they left a copy with us, which is really important because imagine when you're traveling, we know sometimes, I know a lot of us aren't traveling right now, but when you do resume travel, sometimes you'll go in areas that you're not familiar with, and maybe there's instances, would it be good to have someone else have your documents just in case they get lost or they get stolen? You can quickly reach out to a trusted person in your life that can quickly get that information to you. And that's really critical. And that's something we've seen in our business. Now, here's a really big one. Now, you heard me talk about my dad's case. I think you want to make sure that you have these documents in your kit. And that is a living trust, a living will, and most importantly, those healthcare directives. Now, if you don't have one of those set up, you might be like, oh, that's something I really need to do. You certainly can. The good news is there are a lot of estate planning attorneys right now who are working remotely that you can reach out to help you with this process. Or there's a lot of resources online too. If you just Google living trust, wills, there's a lot of documents, legal documents that you can set something really simple. Make sure you have your wishes documented. That would be very, very helpful. And just as a tip before we get too far, this is something we talk to our clients about a lot. When our clients go through the process of putting together a will, a living trust, healthcare directives, please don't forget to get your signature notarized. Too often, we've actually seen cases where people go through the process of putting together their trust and the will, but they forget that last step, which is to sign in front of a notary. And during this time, very, very important. The other thing you want to do is keep copies of any medications, any medical records. This is also really helpful, right? Just imagine, what if you're not able to speak for yourself? What items would be necessary for you? I would also include copies of the really good, easy way to keep copies of your medication is simply to take the bottles and take pictures of the front and backs. That will give whoever's looking at your kit a real clear indication of what you're taking, how often you take it, all that good stuff. On that note, also in this area, I would recommend, I want you to include the phone numbers, email addresses, and include important contact numbers here. So this could be your estate planning attorney, your doctor, information like that. So think about documents as well as thinking about contact information. We're talking phone numbers, email addresses, websites. All right. The more information, the better here. Brandon, what else?
So once you have gathered all this information, it's so important that you must keep it safe and secure. So if you prefer physical copies of this document, make sure that you put it in a safe that's not only secure, but also weatherproof, which is very important. And those of you that prefer digital copies, make sure your file is encrypted.
Absolutely. So, Brandon, that's a great reminder. Many times we think, okay, we went through the process of putting this kit together. And it's like some people, like my parents, for example, prefer paper. Like my mom literally has file cabinets with lots and lots of paper, but it still makes sense to have it all in one place, right? I mean, I remember going through this process. I'm like, where is this at? We need these documents. And she's like, I don't know. She's so flustered, and she's going through files after file. You don't want to be in that situation. You want it in one secure place. Now, some of our clients have said, well, should we put it in a safe deposit box? You certainly can if you feel like that's makes most sense for you and your family. I would recommend considering also keeping a digital copy, like Brandon said, but making sure that it's encrypted. Here is an example of a hard drive. You can definitely use one of these. Keep it encrypted. Make sure it's safe, and then and maybe even put it in the cloud if you feel comfortable with that too. But again, make sure it's secure. Make sure it's safe. I actually think one of the things that you might want to consider is keeping a copy of these documents or your file, right, with an attorney, with a financial advisor, someone who's, or even your CPA, someone licensed who is going to be able to make sure to keep your information safe, and someone who you trust, most importantly. The other thing that we mentioned here is to also consider keeping a copy with a family or friend that you trust out of state, outside of your state. And why we say that, it could even be outside the country. But most importantly, think about planning for additional risks, thinking about geographical emergencies. That's one less risk, again, that we're reducing. So consider having your information outside the state as well. What else, Brandon?
We understand this whole process, gathering data, all of that could be extremely overwhelming. But we will tell you it's going to be worth it at the end, and you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment. And it's something that you should definitely tackle on right away. And one thing to note is that if you have any life changes in your life, you want to make sure to update those documents right away. But an annual review or revision should be sufficient.
That's a great reminder, Brandon. I think sometimes we feel like it's just too overwhelming a process, but in this case, it shouldn't be. It's really a process of collecting your documents, putting it together, having that clarity, and having the peace of mind that it's somewhere. In fact, you can even have some fun with it, right? You can package it in a nice box. You can color code it if you want to. Keep that organization, keep that information fresh. It's a great exercise. And most importantly, you're doing it for the people that you care about most. It's the people that, in case they need to gather this and they don't know where to go, you've done the heavy lifting for them. One thing that I would invite all of you who are parents to do, and something that I'm actually in the process of doing for my own kids, is to write a letter to your children and include that in this kit. A letter to your children, I think, is really meaningful. If you want to include letters to other family members in there, you're of course welcome to do so. This is just sort of a starting place. This is not an end all be all. If there's other things you want to include in the kit, by all means, it's your own family, your own financial first aid kit. So we want you to feel like it actually encompasses everything that's important in your life. I mean, there could be other things that you want to include. For example, we just heard Brandon has this super adorable dog. He might want to put in provisions for his dog in there, right? And there might be other family members or other circumstances, maybe businesses that you run, other things that you think could, again, be part of this kit that would be helpful just in case of an emergency. There he goes again. He knew. See, he was on cue. He was on cue. We had him on cue. But these are the types of things we want you to think about. We don't want you to ever have to get in a situation where you're rushing to try and figure it out and scrambling. Our goal is to give you financial confidence, to feel less anxiety. And during this time, we get that, a lot of us are a little overwhelmed. For sure, totally normal. But we're hoping that we can share these sort of tips with you and some advice with you to get you through that process. So again, I'm going to do a quick recap, okay? And you're going to see a lot of this information online on site, so that you can actually just, you can use it as a guide. So I don't want you to feel like, you don't have the tools in front of you. But if you go to this website, and thank you, Curtis and our team, for showing this to everybody, you'll see the financial first aid kit. This will actually line item by line item break it down. Now, I actually have a copy in front of me too, but you'll see we start with sort of the basics of your budget worksheet. We talked about your credit report. We talked about your social security statement, debit card, credit cards, bank account statements. So think about all the places that will have account numbers on them, your titling of the accounts, which is really important because so often when you go through this process, your attorney or your estate planning attorney, even your CPA might be saying, who's on title though? Is it just you? Is it you and your mom? Is it you and your sibling? Who's on title is critical. So that's why we actually want to see statements. And that's why debit card, credit card statements. And so you're thinking about things that will show you account numbers, PIN numbers, the personal contacts in your life. So it doesn't hurt to include people who make those tough decisions on your behalf. So it could be a sister, it could be a neighbor, someone that you trust that has that information. And also, if there's things that you can't put in your inbox, they're still really important to you. You want to include that and the places that's available to you. You might say like, check under the bed, under the box, the left, whatever it may be. There's something in there for a blah, blah, blah. So include a map, or if you will, or directions in there as well. And then there's more. So then Brandon talked about brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, life insurance, annuities, phone numbers. And don't forget, he also talked about credit card statements. And we emphasize the importance of doing copies of both the front and the back copies. And why do we say that? Because when you're rushing and you need this information, it's so helpful that you have, number one, the credit card information, the number, right? But also the phone number, the contact. This actually has happened where, someone has gone traveling or they're out and about and they lose their credit card and all of a sudden they're stressed out. Maybe it got stolen or they just left it at the restaurant. Well, then they can actually quickly call someone who has this kit and say, can you quickly just email me really quick my credit card fronts and backs? Done. Send over. They can hit the phones, call each and every one and get them canceled and reinstated just that smoothly. Again, our goal is to help you reduce your financial risk. The other thing is Brandon talked about also was, annuities, life insurance, things like that. I know, Brandon, actually, let's jump on this just really quickly, Brandon. We go through this process with our own clients, reviewing their annuities, reviewing their life insurance. One question that came about was, how often should they be reviewing these sort of things? I know we're telling them once a year for their first aid kit. We want you to update your first aid kit once a year if you can. At the very least, go through everything, make sure it's still accurate and reasonable to your situation now. But one question that came about was, I have like an old life insurance or old annuity policy from back then. Like, on a side note, how often should I be reviewing those documents, Brandon?
I think anytime you have old policies, it's important to review them right away. And especially given the fact that the calculation to underwrite these insurance policies have completely changed because longevity has increased. So a lot of clients that we've met that have older policies have these really outdated insurance products that really are not serving them any justice. They're very expensive or it has a very low death benefit. So we urge every single person that does have an old policy, put that policy statement, get your annual policy statement and review it with your advisor. And don't wait, because the sooner you get action in terms of reviewing those policies, something can be done quickly.
Yeah, great tip, Brandon. And also, earlier we had mentioned the importance of also including your brokerage accounts and your retirement accounts. And this is as well. So those of you who have changed jobs through the years, it's important for you to go through to your old documents. You might have an old 401k and an old 401k or 403b at an old company. I remember, my husband is in technology, and a lot of you who are in technology know that it's actually not uncommon to change companies pretty rapidly, more so before than now, obviously. But during that time, he had a little bit of 401k here and another 401k here. And so that's an opportunity for you to collect those documents, make sure those documents are in your kit, And most importantly, if you're looking to consolidate those 401ks in one place, that also gives you that record that you're able to do so. So take this moment to do that. And while you're going through that process, I also want to make a quick tip for you is while you see the statements, do yourself a favor, make a phone call or jump online and check who your beneficiary designations are on those 401ks, on those retirement accounts. Make sure those are the people that you still have earmarked. Many times I'll meet with clients and they'll say, and Brandon, I know, we both experience this all the time. And then we'll say, well, who's your beneficiary? Like, I don't even remember. Oh my goodness, that was done before I was married. That was done before I had kids. That was done before I was divorced. Oh my goodness, I didn't know they were still named as my beneficiary. That's really important. So when you go through this process of putting your financial first aid kit, we're inviting you to take time to review your finances, review what you've chosen, who you've documented, and make sure that those are the people that should be listed, and also that your bank accounts are titled correctly. Everything in your life is nice and tight. And of course, if you have financial questions on your individual holdings and whatnot, seek out a financial advisor, reach out to us. Find ways that really can help yourself out. Take this opportunity, make this one of the silver linings of being at home to get your financial house in order, because I can tell you, you won't regret it. It'll feel a little like a lot of work. And I know I see Cecilia here. I see Frank here. I see Jen Lu. I see Daniel. I see Stephanie. I see so many of you joining us. And so I'm grateful that you're joining us, but I'm inviting you to take action, because everybody has somebody in their lives that they care about. And this is really doing this for other people, because we're trying to alleviate stress. We're trying to collect documentation, and we're really just trying to make this work. Now, I'm going to take a couple questions if you don't mind. I see Frank Smith asked a question, and he says, we'll share that here. And it says, I have a rollover IRA that is just sitting, not allocated. Any ideas? Brandon, would you like to take this, or you want me to take it?
I could add some information to it. So when you say you have an IRA rollover that's just sitting, not allocated, we're going to assume that it's just sitting in cash. So anytime that's sitting in cash, it's not doing anything for you. So anytime you're earning less than what the inflation is, technically you're losing money. So who wants to lose money? You want to make sure that the investments that you have, either be in rollover IRA or brokerage account, it correlates to what your objectives are. If your objective is, for growth, then you want to invest for stocks. If your objective is for income, then you want to invest in fixed income or bonds. But you need to make sure that the investments definitely correlate with what your objectives are.
Great tip, Brandon, and so true. And I'm really thankful, Frank, for you for asking that question. I think that's a question that we've actually been receiving a lot recently. We've certainly seen record levels of unemployment. Unfortunately, we know that almost 50% of Americans who are able to work aren't currently working because of the pandemic and so many other factors. So this is something that we've seen a lot of. A lot of people have, through that layoff process, might have moved their 401k to an IRA rollover, or maybe those assets, those retirement savings are still at the 401k of their previous employer. And so it's important to go through that process to getting clarification on those monies, what makes most sense for you, and take this opportunity to plan this out. I know, for example, Brandon and I are on meeting calls with clients every day about these sort of processes. And in fact, Brandon, I know, has had a very, very busy morning today. And that's something we're hearing more than ever, Frank, about what do I do with my money? Do I keep it in cash? Do I invest it? How do I invest it? What would make most sense for me? And is what on the flip side, maybe you're not like Frank, maybe it's fully invested. Does that still make sense for you, right? Are you still having the right allocation? You heard Brandon just say that it's really important that what you're invested in matches you at any given time. So I know we're doing a lot of reviews like that currently. I would suggest and advise and encourage you to take an active role in doing that as well. The good news is like us, we are a essential services company. Certainly, we are our entire team. We have an amazing team, by the way. I got to give it a quick shout out. I just love our team is incredible. They've been with us a really long time. They are so passionate and excited about helping you reach financial success. So if there's any questions, you're looking for a second opinion, you want to talk to Brandon or myself, all you need to do is reach out. But I invite you to whatever you do, even if you don't talk to us, just be proactive. Don't let this stuff sit and simmer. Take action. If you're concerned, figure out where we can reduce that concern, right? One of the things, and you're most welcome, Frank. We're seeing these comments. They're coming really quickly. Thank you so much for asking that question. The other thing we want to talk about the importance of is once you do this, right? Don't be shy about telling your family and friends that you've gone through this process. Because, I was just talking to my mom about this not too long ago. Like I didn't know you didn't know where this information was. Fortunately, I kept a copy. But I think what we want to do is, and it's not her fault, it's not my fault. I mean, we just didn't know. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. But take this opportunity to have open dialogue and discussions with your families and loved ones, right? So that they know that you've prepared, that you've got this information ready. And in fact, I would actually suggest you share with them everything that we shared with you today, and have them and encourage them to set up their own financial first aid kit too, wherever they may keep it. And especially if you have, like myself, like I'm definitely a sandwich generation, right? I've got kids downstairs with my husband, and I've got parents who are seniors now. This is a chance to really help everybody in your life. Go to your parents and say, these are the things, mom, or dad, that we should put together in a kit, right? And they're like, what do you mean kit? Like, just, it could be as simple as a file, it could be as simple as a filing cabinet, but ideally, like Brandon said, weatherproof would be ideal. And go through that process of putting something together. And then if they can, have them scan it so that you have a digital copy of everything, and keep it in lock and key, keep it encrypted, right? But this is a really good thing. And we really wanted to talk about during this time, because right now, many of us are at home. We just filed our taxes. We know the tax filing deadline was extended, so it just finished recently. So we figured, this was a good opportunity for us to meet with you. So we sincerely hope that was helpful. But Brandon, where should they go for more information and all that good stuff?
If you need more information, or if you want to send us a message personally directly, go to our website, sungroupwp.com.
Yeah, super, super easy. And also, if you don't mind, for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, if you could do us a favor and click that subscribe button and click the little bell for notifications. We are going to hold more of these online live stream workshops for you. As you know, for those of you who watched us now, we have given these similar workshops to employees at NBC, employees from the Los Angeles Times, employees at Hensel Phelps, at Johnson Johnson, and numerous companies and organizations have reached out and invited us to speak on these relevant financial topics. So we're going to continue to do this. Since we're all social distancing, we thought this was an opportunity to share more knowledge with you in a very efficient way. So we won't take up any more of your time. We thank you so much for making the time and being here with us. We couldn't do this without you. We are truly, truly grateful. And Brandon, thank you so much for being an amazing business partner. And and it's been so great. Brandon, I joke with him because Brandon doesn't like to do video that much. So thank you, Brandon, for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for joining us and giving us your support. Reach out to us. Let us know if you have any other questions. We would love to hear from you. And for those of you who haven't done this before, I want to invite you, because each and every day I do a market recap after the stock market closes. And today it'll be at 1:30 Pacific, so just a little about an hour from now. And you can join right from where you're seeing us right now. Thank you so much, and we'll see you very soon. Take care and be well.